So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today. I hope everyone's having a good Friday. So a little introduction about myself. My name is Ryan Stas. I'm a graduate research assistant in the Industrial and Management Systems Engineering Department of West Virginia, where I'm pursuing my master's degree in industrial engineering. Today, I will be discussing the Toxics Release Inventory Program and Toxics Tracker through the EPA program. So a little outline of today's seminar. We'll begin with a brief history of the TRI program, and then we'll discuss the TRI program and its importance. And then we will switch over to a live demonstration of the Toxics Tracker. And lastly, we will review the benefits of the TRI program and Toxics Tracker for businesses. So taking a look at the timeline of the TRI program and how it has evolved since its inception, the program was established in the late 1980s between 1986 and 1990, following the creation of the EPCRA. This period laid the foundation for the TRI program, focusing on transparency and chemical safety. During the 1990s, the program expanded its reach. There was a strong emphasis on program expansion and public accessibility, making more data available to communities and stakeholders. As we moved into the late 1990s and early 2000s, the focus shifted to broadening industry coverage. This ensured that more industries were required to report their chemical usage and emissions. From the 2000s to the 2010s, improvements in modernization were prioritized. This included efforts to enhance data quality and simplify reporting processes for facilities. And then finally, in the 2020s, the program continues to advance by focusing on environmental justice and enhanced data accessibility, ensuring that vulnerable and underserved communities have better access to information about potential environmental risks. So moving to the TRI program overview. So this will be about what is the TRI program and why it is relevant to you. So what is the TRI program? So Toxics Release Inventory is the full name of TRI. It was established by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and its purpose is to collect and publish data on the disposal and release of specific toxic chemicals by facilities in the United States. You can see there on the right, this is the management of chemical waste. So we're looking into energy recovery, treatment, disposal, environmental releases, and recycling. So chemicals listed under the TRI can pose risks to both human health and the environment, and the TRI program monitors how these chemicals are managed and waste. So this involves environmental releases, waste management, waste transfers, and pollution prevention. We'll cover these more in detail as we move into the live demonstration. The objectives of the TRI program are to increase public knowledge and access to information on chemicals in industrial facilities, in addition to supporting informed decision-making by communities, regulators, and companies, and to promote transparency and accountability in the handling of hazardous substances. The TRI program currently looks into 800 plus individual chemicals and chemical categories, over 21,000 industrial and federal facilities, and this has all been priority since 1987, when annual reporting from facilities was started. So if you look there on the left, you'll see the waste management hierarchy. This is a very important concept for the TRI program. So when possible, the creation of pollution should be prevented in the first place. This is where you see your source reduction at the top, where is most preferable, and we'll move our way down to the least preferable. So if the creation of a pollutant can't be completely prevented, the next objective should be to reduce the amount that is created. When the amount of pollutant can't be feasibly reduced, options to reuse or recycle should be explored. The next step, recover, refers to the process of extracting any useful material or energy from the waste. The least preferred option is disposal, there at the bottom. This is where the waste will go to a landfill or otherwise be released out into the environment. So why was the TRI created? So There were several events that occurred across the world that sparked this creation. The first of which was in Bhopal, India in December 1984, where a methyl isocyanate gas released at a Union Carbide chemical plant. Thousands died the first night, and thousands more have died due to long-term health effects. And the survivors that didn't die continue to suffer with permanent disabilities. Next, in Institute, West Virginia, in August 1985, a chemical release that was similar happened at a facility here in the U.S., where over 100 people were hospitalized. These two large chemical events sparked the creation of the EPCRA, the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. And this was due to concerns about chemical accidents and the preparedness and availability of information on toxic chemical releases. So, how does that tie to the TRI? Well, the EPCRA has several key components that came of it, 4 specifically, and one of which was the Toxic Release Inventory Program. So, which facilities report the TRI? Facilities in the TRI-covered industry sector or category include manufacturing, coal and oil electricity generation, certain mining facilities, hazardous waste management, and federal facilities. These facilities have the equivalent of at least 10 full-time employees, and they must manufacture, process, or otherwise use more than a certain threshold amount of a TRI-listed chemical within a calendar year. Now, these facilities reporting TRI report several different things, one of which is on-site releases, such as air emissions, surface wire discharges, disposal to land. Another is other on-site waste management, such as recycling, energy recovery, and treatment, transfers to off-site locations, and pollution prevention. So the activities involved in your pollution prevention, the barriers that you see to pollution prevention, and any optional comments you might feel are needed. We will explore what is a release, as this is a very big topic when we move into the toxics tracker. So releases are the different ways that chemicals from industrial facilities enter the air, water, or land. Now we'll move into the TRI mapping tool, where to find it and what features are important. So the TRI mapping tool is an online interactive tool that allows users to view and analyze TRI data geographically. Users can filter by location, industry sector, specific chemicals, and more. And it provides visualizations of facility locations, chemical releases, and waste management activities. So how to access the TRI mapping tool? We will first visit the EPA's TRI website. Then we'll navigate to the TRI toxics tracker. And lastly, we'll begin our search by inputting relevant data such as location, industry, and chemical. This is where we'll move into the live demonstration. So feel free to scan that link if you'd like to follow along. I'll give a few seconds to do so if you'd like. And in a brief moment, I will stop sharing and move over to the live demonstration. So if you successfully scan the link and reach the TRI toxics tracker, this is the homepage that you should be welcome to. Now, make sure that it is at the most refresh rate that you can. Sometimes if you have it left open too long, you'll need to refresh it to be able to gather the next information. So when we are starting our search, we're going to start right here where it says start a search. And you'll be met with options like geography, sector, chemical, or TRI facility or name ID, if you know that your specific TRI facility or name ID you'd like to look at. For this tutorial, we will be looking at geography, specifically the state of West Virginia, and later the state of New Mexico. So when choosing geography, you'll see that you have several options here, such as street address, state, county, metro area, watershed, tribal land, and EPA region. Since we are looking at the full state of West Virginia, we're going to start here where it says state, county, and city, and we're going to select West Virginia. Something I'd like to highlight is that if you'd like to narrow down your search further, so say you're looking at the state of West Virginia and several counties within it, or a city, or multiple cities, you have the option to select multiple options. So you can select all of your options that you'd like and click yes, and you can see at the top our filters change what our view will be. Now for this, we'll be looking at just the entirety of the state of West Virginia, so we will be clearing this filter. And we'll be moving on from there. Now, the default for the year selection is set to 3 years. However, you have the option to expand this. At the bottom, you have quick selections such as 5 years and 10 years, 10 years being the most, or just your most recent year. If you'd like to get more specific, you have the option here to click on filters and options. Additionally, you can then go to more, and you're met with all of these different options to narrow down your search. So with geography, you're given similar things such as state and county, but you also now have the EPA region, your proximity flag for sector, so you can go by state and county first, and then select the sector that you're most interested in within that region. So you have your general industry sectors, your detailed, if you want to get even more granular, your subsectors within those sectors. These are all things you can do to narrow down your search parameters to exactly what you're most interested in. You have your option to look at specific chemicals within those two. Here's general, the reporting year. This is something I want to emphasize as this is very useful in doing trends analysis. So by default, it's set to the last 3 years. However, you have the option to select specific years or expand the years that you're looking at. So now we're going to X out of this. You see at the top that this looks accurate to what we're going to look for. And up here is where we'll see our filters as we change them throughout. You'll see as we move forward that filters will be added or removed from here. This is a good way to check to make sure that your data is accurate as you move through and you didn't add any filters that you did not want for subsequent research. So moving on to the map. This is where you'll be met with a geographic map of all the facilities that are included in your parameters. So you'll see here, all the facilities highlighted in purple are all of those in the state of West Virginia that are currently reporting to TRI, with larger circles being larger facilities, and the darkness of the circle corresponding to how many releases they have by facility, by pound. So the darker the circle, the more the release. So you can see a direct relationship with many being larger facilities having more releases. You also have the option to view this in satellite view if you'd like to have a more detailed look. And navigating around this map, you can either do with just your mouse or your trackpad by using 2 fingers to pinch in or pinch out to zoom, your scroll wheel, or you can drag to move, or you also have the option for buttons here on the side. So you can move left and right, up and down, find your home again. This is useful if you've zoomed in and you want to have the full view again. You can also zoom in and out using these buttons. Now, changing the look of this map, you have some map options here at the top. So right now it's set on releases, but you can also change it to waste managed. So now we're looking at waste managed data, and your legend changes as well. Now, if you want your dot colors not to be how much waste managed or releases are by facility, you also have the option to change it to the industry sector. So now you can see a breakdown of where the different industry sectors are for the different data points. We'll stick to this for now. You also have the option for potential harm and demographic data. So Right now it's on hidden, but if we were to say show, you're met with even more options. And now the different regions within West Virginia have the option to be highlighted. So if we were to choose low income as an example, you can see now they have their own legend and the different regions are highlighted and colored correspondingly. So this is useful for if you know where your facility is and you're curious about the demographic data around your facility, you can change this mapping to get a view of that. So we'll keep this on hidden. And now I'll show you, you have the option to also see non-tri facilities. So we say show. All those in green, because there's no data on them, they can't be highlighted a certain color. So they're all set to green. So now we'll move into the summary tab. So the summary tab is a very nice tab for a quick glance. So it provides an aggregated overview of tri data, including trends and releases, waste management, and pollution prevention activities, and helps users quickly grasp key insights and trends from tri data, which are useful for decision making. So you can see you'll have data here on the home page relative to releases, waste managed, potential harm, and pollution prevention. For each of these, the graph setups are very similar. You'll have the mode by year. You'll also have a table with rankings. This is where you have options here at the top. So you can change by chemical, facility. You also get a trend graph here and county. Additionally, you have the option to expand these to get a full review. When you do so, you're also met with a little legend here on the right with your media type. So as we spoke about earlier with releases, there's different media types such as air, water, land, and offsite. And these are depicted here. If you don't feel like expanding it, you also have the option to just hover over and you'll be met with the exact number along with the media type. Some other icons to point out, you have the option to export your image and download your data in an Excel format. So moving on to the ribbon above, you have some more options here on the summary page. So you have a print-friendly report option. This page is very helpful if you like the data you saw and the views you saw, and now you'd like to get all of it aggregated into one page to print out for a report. Within this page, you still have the option to change the views to get exactly what you'd like. But you can see many of the graphs are the same that we saw on the previous page. The next one is top facilities and chemicals. So here you'll find a page concerned with just ranking the facilities based on different types. So this one's disposal and other releases, waste managed, RSEI hazards. You'll also have top chemicals by air, water, land, waste managed. So again, all this data is based on the parameters we set in the beginning. So for the entire state of West Virginia over the past 3 years. You have the option to view a facility list of all of the data points in this database that we've selected. With all of the information associated with them. Again, you can download this data if you'd like to do further analysis on your own or export it. You can also change the table itself right here. You have an option to expand out the releases by media. So right now the release is a single column, but if you select that option there, you'll see that it's now broken out into air releases, water releases, land releases, and offsite releases, the 4 different media types we spoke about earlier. And as you move through these tabs, you'll often see a little icon over here to the right. Sometimes it'll say more information, sometimes it will say definitions. So if something's unclear to you, you always have the option to click this to gather more information on what you're looking at. The last tab in the ribbon is compliance and enforcement. So this information below provides a summary of TRI and RSEI data for the facilities included in your current selection. You'll see either CAA, CWA, or RCRA reports over the time span you selected for the facilities in this database. So you also have the option to click on the link to the reports if you'd like to view them further. Now moving on to tribal lands, you'll see no information on this right now because we have West Virginia selected. So if you have your parameters selected and this happens to you, don't be alarmed. There just may not be information on it. So you'll see 0 tribes. Here is what's given to us. So this is where we'll have to switch our parameters. We're going to reload the page. And so while it's loading, I'll just mention that the tribal lands provides information about tribe data reported to facilities located within a 10-mile radius of federally recognized tribal lands. So it's not all tribal lands that are available within an unlimited distance. It's all those in close proximity. So for this one, we will choose New Mexico. Move back to tribal lands. And the importance of this data highlights environmental impacts specific to these tribal communities and supports efforts to address environmental justice and protect these vulnerable populations. So now that we have some data on here, you can see the graphs provided. So you'll see the number of facilities by tribe. You also have the option to switch this to a table and see all tribes and the number of facilities in New Mexico that are within a 10-mile radius of these tribes. You'll have the releases by tribe. And if we go to all tribes, you'll see the amount of releases within a 10-mile radius of these tribes. Additionally, you'll see waste managed by tribe. Again, all waste managed within a 10-mile radius of the tribes, and waste transfers by tribe. If you have a specific tribe that you're looking into, you have the option to narrow down your search this way. And additionally, you have the option to change the distance filter. So within 10 miles is the default. We also have the option to say on tribal lands. Now moving to the ribbon here at the top, you have your summary tables. So this congregates all of the data into one view, one table. You have the option to, again, search your tribe specifically if there's a lot in this data, or search your tribe facility specifically. You again can edit the distance filter, all from this table. And lastly, you have your view all tribal lands and charts. So this is just a one-stop shop for all of the views we just looked at. Here's another option where I was telling you about the more info. So you can collect this to gather more information on this page. Now we'll move on to releases. So as I mentioned earlier, A release refers to the different ways that toxic chemicals from industrial facilities enter the air, water, and land. And releases also include spilling, leaking, pumping, pouring, emitting, emptying, discharging, injecting, escaping, leaching, dumping, or disposing into the environment. So a whole sorts of release options. So here we're met with a very similar page. You'll see as we move through, a lot of the visualizations on the main pages follow each other. So we have releases by media, releases by media and year, top 10 chemicals by releases in media, and releases by media and industry sector. You also have the option to get more detailed views of this. So that was set on general, but now there's further breakdowns. So on the right here is a good example of this, where before it just had the different types of releases, but now breaks each release down into further subcategories, such as stacked air, fugitive air, direct water, etc. Right now, it's set to media detailed. We're going to move back to general. So you have these options to switch here, but you can also switch it right here. And you can select your specific filters if you'd like. Or you can turn different options on and off, just core chemicals. So now we'll move to the next tab, by chemical. So this is giving us similar data with release data. However, it's by chemical. So now it's releases by chemical for all the years selected and releases by chemical and year. You also have options to do by industry sector, by location. We're met with a miniature version of the map. The same controls apply. You have a view all release charts. So this is again where you can see all of the charts that we just saw in one view. And lastly, you have a net releases tab. With further filtering options. So now we'll move into waste managed. So the waste managed data, this is facilities, how they report how much of each chemical is recycled, burned for energy recovery, and treated, as well as how much is disposed of or otherwise released during normal production. If that wording sounds familiar, it's because we mentioned it previously with the waste management hierarchy. So you'll see here in this graph to the left, a lot of these terms are very similar. So right here at the bottom was the bottom of our hierarchy. So disposed of or otherwise released, this is the least preferable option. And as we move up, you have treated, recycled, energy recovery, and more. So ideally, we'd like to see this pie chart as small, or this part of the pie chart, the red part, as small as possible. And you can see in these other graphs, they have it broken out the same in their legends. So waste managed by method and year, same color coordination, top 10 chemicals by waste managed and method for all years selected, and waste managed by method and industry sector for all years selected. You again have the option for detailed if you'd like, which just breaks it down further, similar to how we saw before. We'll keep it as general. And we have all the same views as the previous tab, by chemical, by industry sector, by location, and a view of all of them. Now moving into waste transfers. So waste transfers. This is the transferring of chemical containing waste to a facility that is geographically or physically separate from the facility reporting under TRI. It also includes chemicals reported TRI as transferred that are sent to offsite facilities. So here you'll see similar categories to the waste managed: disposal, recycling, energy recovery, and now POTW, which is publicly owned treatment works. And you have the same options to view this by chemical, by location. Now we have a list of all the transfers by TRI facility. List of transfers by offsite facilities. And a view of all waste transfers charts. So now we'll move into pollution prevention. As we mentioned on the waste management hierarchy, this is also known as source reduction, or the most preferable. And it is any practice that reduces, eliminates, and prevents the creation of pollution prior to recycling, treatment, disposal, or release into the environment. So this is what we'd like everyone to aim for, if possible. It's the most preferable. So you have your source reduction by activity, by category. You also have source reduction activity by category and year. You have some quick filters. These are commonly used by users, so they have quick options here. So you can select just barriers to P2 report if you'd like to see just the barriers that people are seeing with pollution prevention. And while this loads, something to note, you can see as I selected this, the filter is added to my top ribbon. So as you move from tab to tab, it is important to note that all the filters you have selected will stay up here. And so if data is seeming much lower in quantity than you had expected, you might have filters still selected from previous tabs that you didn't realize you did. You can either X them out here or go back to the tab and deselect them. But now you can see, so barriers to P2 reported, now our data has changed, and these are just barriers that have been reported. We'll take this off. So you also have some other filters, such as source reduction category, the source reduction activity, the barriers, as we just mentioned, and comment type. So you have another view that this tab already breaks out the barriers. So there's not feasible, no substitutes, quality. And you also have the barriers by category and year. So you can see as they change over time. You have another view by chemical, by industry sector, by location, and a tab with activity and comments. This is a very important tab, as later in the presentation we'll mention different things that you as a business can do to help your efforts. And if you scroll over, there's a lot of information on what has been reported on P2 activities and barriers. There's also a comment section. So as these different P2 activities get implemented, you'll be able to see in the comment section how they implemented these activities. So this is something that you can do when you're doing a competitive analysis and seeing what other companies are doing, or just seeing what your own company has done in the past. And lastly, we have a tab to view all the pollution prevention graphs and charts. Now moving to the chemicals page. You probably noticed that as we went through these tabs, in the top ribbon, there is often, almost always, a tab to look at the mode by chemical. So if chemicals are what you're most concerned with, you can move right down to this chemicals tab, and it has all of the similar charts. So now we have releases by chemical, waste managed by chemical, P2 by chemical, and you have all of your chemical charts information in one tab. You also have options to filter all of these. So you can do by try chemical name if you're wanting to look at specific chemicals, other EPA programs, a health endpoint, chemical groups, and chemical synonyms. So if there's specific, this one's a big one, health endpoints, if you're concerned with specific consequences that are occurring at your facility. So you can look into this for different trends of the chemicals being used. You have your forms by chemical, activities by chemical, potential health effects of each chemical. You also have the option from these tabs to search within it. You also have health effect definitions. Moving on to potential harm. This is to evaluate the potential harm of trichemicals released into the environment with numerous factors to be considered. So you've seen multiple times RSEI mentioned, and that's the EPA's risk screening environmental indicators. It's a screening level tool that uses tri data along with other information and produces results that provide context and enable relative comparisons of potential health related impacts from reported toxic chemical waste management activities. The RSEI hazard is also called toxicity weighted pounds and is a descriptor of relative potential harm to human health and consists of the pounds of a chemical released to the environment or transferred offsite multiplied by the chemical's toxicity weight. So if you'd like more details about that, you can click a link here, or you can also go into the more information tab. So here we'll see all the information, similar graphs as before, to all data relating to potential harm and RSEI hazards. So now we have releases by chemical for all the years selected, your RSEI hazard by chemical, releases by median year, and RSEI hazard by median year. And now we'll have a similar breakdown at the top ribbon where you can break it down by chemical, by media, by industry sector, by location, and finally a summary table. With further options to search within the summary table. When you see these plus signs, you can click them to break it down into further data at your specific facility if you'd like. And that is all for potential harm. Lastly, we'll look at customizable tables. So if you're having trouble finding exactly what you'd like in the different views on the tabs on the left, or you just like to have your own set of the data to do your own analysis, this is where you can come. So in the customizable table, you have options to pull in information from the data that is available from the tri reporting, So you can add facility information, location information, submission information, total quantity options, and all you have to do is check the box or uncheck a box if you don't want it. So when I click this, you can see now the census block group has been added to the data set. And you have options to download the CSV. Now, if you don't want to download the CSV, again, you can come over this download button, which, as I said before, lets you download as the Excel data, or you can just take a screenshot if you like. So that concludes the live demonstration. So some considerations when using TRI data. TRI covers many, but not all sectors in chemicals. So you may not find the exact chemical or sector you're looking for. Quantities of releases from facilities are not necessarily an indicator of potential human health risks. Most TRI releases are covered under various TRI permitting programs, so you may find more information elsewhere. Additionally, TRI reporting requirements, covered chemicals and covered industries have changed over time. So as you expand your data's historical aspect to it, the reporting years, you may find discrepancies between them, and this may be because of the requirements changed. So the smaller your time frame, the more similar the data may be. Additionally, TRI data is published each July and is updated throughout the year. And lastly, TRI is one of many sources of environmental information from the EPA. So as I mentioned, if you're not finding exactly what you want within the TRI toxic tracker, you can check out their TRI toolbox, and you may find more information elsewhere. Important takeaways from this: you must determine what specific filters are relevant to you and your business prior to digging into the toxics tracker. As you saw when we were on the homepage, there's a lot of options to filter down your parameters and find exactly what you want. So the more general you make it, the harder it will be to find exactly the solution you're looking for. So it's important to write down or map out exactly what parameters are important to you and get the exact view that you'd like. So additionally, some data is cumulative, so choosing the correct time frame in the filters section may be necessary. Each tab has additional views and breakdowns that are easy to navigate via a ribbon above the graph. I showed you all how to use that, where within the graph, there's a ribbon above it where you can get multiple views. And lastly, most visuals and data can be downloaded for external analysis via a link in the upper right-hand corner. This is where I show you could download as an Excel file or download an image. So now moving to industry benefits. So how can your business benefit from the TRI program and its tools? So TRI's importance for businesses, it helps businesses understand and minimize their environmental impact. It also enhances corporate responsibility and public image. And lastly, it encourages safer chemical management and pollution prevention. Some potential uses: the TRI toxics tracker can be used for benchmarking against competitors. So comparing emissions and waste management practices with competitors. It can also be used for improving environmental performance of your own. So tracking your own facilities data to find areas of improvement. And lastly, community engagement and transparency, communicating these efforts to reduce environmental impact to the community. So for benchmarking against competition, there's 4 steps. You're going to start by assessing industry standards. So find the typical sector emission levels and waste practices for your sector. And then you're also going to compare your facility's performance against averages. And then you'll move into your evaluation of competitors. So use the TRI toxic tracker to find your competitors and then compare your environmental footprint with these competitors. And through the rankings, you can identify leaders and laggards and see where you fall in the mix. Next, you're going to identify improvement opportunities. So you'll determine areas of underperformance versus these competitors and align strategies with the top performing facilities. This is where I mentioned you can utilize the pollution prevention comment section to see what some of these top performing facilities are doing and see if you can implement the same strategies. So the last step, you're going to set data-driven goals. So you can use the Tri-Toxics Tracker to establish measurable sustainability targets based on the trend you're heading and communicate these goals internally and externally. So viewing within the toxic tracker how you can do this, you're going to begin, like always, curating your filters to the specific area and industry sector of interest. Next, you'll utilize the summary, releases, waste tabs, and all the other tabs to compare proportions and gather more insights. You can also use the customizable table to develop your list and rankings for the areas of interest amongst peers. This is where you can rank them based on what parameters are most important to you. You can use the total quantities options to select the specific medias that you'd like, and the region preferences and sector preferences to gather the specific facilities that you're most interested in and you'd like to compare to. And then lastly, you're going to compare these methods and practices with those doing better to identify possible improvement solutions. So what chemicals have they transitioned to? How do they manage their waste? And what are they doing to prevent or reduce releases? The next option, individual improvement. So you'll again start by analyzing current performance with reviewing your facility's TRI data and identifying the largest contributors to your environmental footprint. Next, you'll set specific improvement goals. So you'll use the TRI data to establish measurable targets for reduction and align goals with the industry standards and regulatory requirements. Third, you'll identify and adopt best practices. So learn innovative practices from top performing facilities in your sector and implement these methods that have proven successful. And lastly, you'll monitor and report progress, same as the previous. So use the TRI data to track improvements over time and regularly communicate progress to stakeholders. So we mentioned a lot about reporting progress over time, and I think I emphasized it when we were going through the live demonstration that the reporting year is a very powerful part of the Tri-Toxics Tracker, as this allows you to gain insights how you're doing over time and develop your trend analysis. So when you're making these improvements to your own facility, an important resource that you can use is the solvent substitutions page on the EPA's website. So there's a link there with the QR code if you'd like to scan that. So this page, as we move forward, is just a congregate list of all the solvent substitutions that have been reported to TRI over the past several years from 2005 to 2023 currently, and it's expanding. So some things to highlight from this page: on the left-hand side, this is where you're going to find your TRI chemical ID or the original chemical name. Then you'll find in the third column where the substitute chemical is. So this is the chemical that you can switch to if possible. You next have options to download your data here on the right. So there's two tabs with downloading all data or downloading current data. And if you download all data, it'll just download everything that's available, no matter what filters you have selected. But if you say download current data, that's the data that you're currently viewing based on the filters that you have selected. So when you're making filter selections, you can do so here. So on the right-hand side, this is where you can make your selections. And then on the left-hand side, this is where you can search specific chemicals, or you can clear your filters after viewing them. Then lastly, community engagement and transparency. So you're going to just start with accessing your TRI data for your facility. Share this data on your website and during community meetings. Next, you'll develop a sustainability report that incorporates TRI insights. And lastly, then you'll engage with community leaders to address questions and co-create solutions. So potential benefits of doing all this: regulatory compliance. This can help you stay compliant with federal regulations. We saw there's a tab within the Tri Toxics Tracker where you can view your non-compliances over the past few years. You can also have cost reduction as a benefit of using the Tri Toxics Tracker. So through your audits, you can identify inefficiencies and reduce waste management costs. You also can gather an enhanced reputation by demonstrating your commitment to sustainability. And lastly, the Tri-Toxics Tracker aids in data-driven decisions, allows you to make informed strategic choices based on accurate data. So here we have some resources and support. Again, you can scan if you'd like to see the Tri-Toxics Tracker, or in the middle, you'll have your Tri Toolbox. And lastly, there's some further guides and tutorials on the right. If you have any questions after the seminar is concluded, you can reach out to Dr. Christopher Moore or Dr. Ashish Navarte. Here's a list of references. I'd like to thank you for your time